Hi, and welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Pastor Paul Steele from Bethlehem Church in Austin, Minnesota. The Bottom Line is our weekly summary of the previous Sunday's sermon. And on Sunday, we started a brand new sermon series called A Message to Proclaim. And the focus of this series is on evangelism. We know that the core mission of the church is to make disciples. And we can't make disciples if we're not bringing people to Jesus, if people aren't putting their faith, their trust in Jesus, if people aren't willing to follow Jesus. And so if we're going to be involved in the work of evangelism, then we need to follow the example of Jesus. And this brings us to our text from Sunday morning, which is Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 through 38. Jesus traveled through all the towns and villages of that area, teaching in the synagogues and announcing the good news about the kingdom. And he healed every kind of disease and illness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. He said to his disciples, "The harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send more workers into his fields." And so if we're going to follow the example of Jesus, we have to realize that, first of all, Jesus had a message to proclaim. So he was in the synagogues, he was teaching from the Old Testament, pointing out the fact that he was the long-awaited Messiah, the anointed king, the one who would bring God's kingdom into this world. And so as he preached in the fields, as he taught there, he proclaimed the good news of the kingdom, that God's kingdom was breaking into this world. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like being healed. It looks like having demons cast out. So Jesus had this message to proclaim that God's kingdom is coming into this world through the person of Jesus, through himself, through his work, through his miracles, through his message, and ultimately through his death and resurrection. Not only did Jesus have a message to proclaim, but Jesus also had compassion. He looked at this crowd of people and he didn't condemn them. He didn't point out to them all the ways that they were failing to live up to the covenant that God had made with them. Rather, he saw them as victims, as being oppressed by the kingdom of darkness. He said that they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. They didn't have the guidance, they didn't have the protection that they needed. So Jesus had compassion on them. They needed help, and he was there to give them that help. Not only did Jesus have a message to proclaim, not only did he have compassion, but Jesus also gave a challenge. He looked at his disciples and said, "Hey, look at there are all these people. There's this harvest of people needing to know the good news, needing to know the gospel, and yet there aren't enough people to proclaim it." And so he challenged them this way. He said, pray that there would be more workers to come into these fields, to come to these people, to proclaim the good news that God's kingdom is coming into this world. So as followers of Jesus, we seek to make disciples, and the very first step of that is to pray for help. We can't do this on our own. We need other people, men and women, who are able to assist us in this work of evangelism. So here's the big idea I want to share with you today. The message our generation needs to hear is that Jesus is the King of the universe. This was the message that Jesus proclaimed to the people who were being oppressed by the kingdom of darkness, and it's the message that has too few people willing and able to tell it. And so we pray for help. Disciple making starts with a message, with compassion and with prayer. So thanks for joining me today. Thanks for being part of Bethlehem, even if you can't be with us in person. You just follow us online. I appreciate you. I appreciate the prayers that you offer. And remember, if you have a prayer request that you want me to be praying about, send me a note. I'd be glad to add you to our prayer list, to my prayer list. And remember, you can join us every Sunday morning online via YouTube or Facebook. or in person here in Austin, Minnesota, next to Ellis Middle School. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and God bless.